So hi, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. I know there's so much to do on weeknights, so the fact that you came out here tells me health is a priority to you, and I really appreciate that you were able to make it out tonight. My name is Marissa Szabo. I'm a certified health coach, and I own Well and Simple Health Coaching and Workplace Wellness. As a health coach, I not only teach people about how to eat healthier, I help them find the ways to do that that makes sense for them. So helping them to kind of problem solve and overcome those obstacles like time management, children that are picky eaters, food prep, meal planning, those kinds of things. So really just trying to make healthier living simpler and easier for people, which is why I talk on subjects such as eating healthy on a budget, which is what brings us here today. I'm just gonna dive in here a little bit, just to kind of give you a little bit of background of my motivation for writing this workshop, in addition to working with people who do have cost as an obstacle. So according to Gallup, and this was a few years ago, the average American spends about $151 on their grocery bill.
Is that a family of four?
That is an individual. So you're gonna have to scale that for a family of four. That actually, when you control, so this used to be something that Gallup would ask every single year, and they stopped doing it for a little while. The last time they did it was in the 80s, and then they did it again in, I believe it was 2012. When you look back at the data and control for the cost of inflation, the amount that Americans spend on groceries actually really hasn't changed since the 1940s, which is kind of interesting. So about $151 for the average American on groceries, and that's per week. The average cost of treatment for a diabetic in the United States is about $7,900 a year, or interestingly, $152 a week. So it costs you just about as much to treat your diabetes as it does to eat for a week. But then when you add on to that, in general, for somebody who does suffer from diabetes, their overall medical expenses are about 2.3 times higher than somebody who does not suffer from diabetes. So overall, that is just a massive cost incurred. Likewise, the average cost of hypertension treatment in the United States, according to the NIH, is $1,494 a year. And the average hospital bill for a single heart attack episode is about $18,200. And that's based on data collected from money, not just about money. So clearly, groceries, yes, they're a significant expense, but the costs of having poor health are also a significant expense. So let's talk about what people are spending that $151 on every single week. So out of the top 10 food items for Americans, these are 7 of them. So soda, cereal, right? Frozen dinners, salty snacks like chips and pretzels, peanut butter and jelly, deli meats, and bread. So 7 out of the top 10 items on people's grocery bills are pretty problematic items, right? So when you're looking at this, what I'm seeing when I look at this as a health coach, I'm seeing sugar and simple carbohydrates, preservatives, chemicals, sodium, sugar, preservatives, sodium, and some more simple carbohydrates. Exactly. So these are what people are spending that money on. And this is important to note because as of 2016, about 40% of Americans were either obese or overweight. More than 1/3 of Americans have heart disease. Almost 10% of the US population has diabetes. And these are all conditions that can be influenced and are highly influenced by our dietary choices. So what we are buying and what we are eating is really, really important. So let's start by kind of analyzing how to figure out whether or not you're getting a deal on items. Okay, so this is your average price tag. The laws governing what you put on a price tag vary from state to state. We are pretty lucky in Massachusetts. They are pretty heavily regulated. So what you are seeing here is what is required. And it has to be clear. There has to be consistency amongst those price tags. So it allows you to cost compare much more accurately. So you can see in that orange square in that corner up in the left there, that is the unit price. And it'll say underneath that price what the unit is. So obviously $3.42 per pound in this situation. The large price on the right is what you are paying for that particular package. And then it'll also say on the tag how big that package actually is. So 14 ounces, right? So when you are comparison shopping, you don't want to look at the big price for that particular package. What you really want to be looking at is that unit price, because that's going to tell you what you are actually going to be paying. It's really easy to look at the price tag really quickly and say, all right, well, this is $3.99 and that's $2.99. Obviously the $2.99 is cheaper, that's what I'm going to buy. But when you really look at it, you might be getting more for your money with the $3.99 bag of whatever this happens to be. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's put this to practice a little bit, okay? So on the left-hand side, I don't know what blinker fluid is. I'm pretty sure it's not a thing, but that's what we have. So you can see the unit price on the top there is 49.8 cents per ounce of blinker fluid, and that is for 8 ounces. You're paying $3.99 for that. On the bottom, you've got a 64-ounce container of blinker fluid, and it's 20.3 cents per ounce, and you're paying $12.99. Which one of those is the better deal?
The first.
The top one or the bottom one?
The bottom.
Exactly, because it's
the bottom,
cheaper
right,
per ounce. Exactly, and you're getting way, way more than you would. On the right-hand side, we have 6 ounces of low-fat yogurt and 32 ounces of low-fat yogurt. You have 12 cents per ounce on the left and 5 cents per ounce on the right. 72 cents for the container versus $1.62 for the container. Which one's the better deal for you? Yeah, the second one, exactly, because you're paying less per ounce and you're getting more on that second one. And then the bottom one, the soy sauce. So it is, in case you can't see it, 17.4 cents per ounce on the left, and that's a 10-ounce container for $1.74. And then on the right, it is 18.45 cents per ounce for a 20-ounce container, $3.69. Which one of those is better?
The left one's cheaper.
Exactly, exactly. Even though it's the smaller container, it's still cheaper per ounce. So that's one of those situations. These are actual price tags. It's actually a better deal to buy less than to buy more. A lot of the time people assume if they get the bigger container, they're getting more for their money. So that's really the first step when you're at the grocery store and you're looking at prices. You really want to be that astute consumer studying those price tags. I do it in the grocery store. I'm pretty sure I don't look crazy. Nobody's told me I do, so I think you'll look okay if you're doing it in the grocery store too. I also take notes when I'm in the grocery store, so. Okay, so now let's talk about what you're actually buying. Prepackaged versus Whole Foods. So I did a little Googling. The average price for, say, a lean cuisine or other TV dinner, it's about $3 a dinner, right? So you could do that. Or you could buy yourself some chicken breast, some broccoli, and some brown rice and make your own dinner. So for one serving of chicken breast, it's about 3 ounces, it's 93 cents. For a serving of broccoli, it is 9 cents. And a serving of brown rice is about 30 cents. So you can actually get a whole, well-balanced meal for $1.32, right? And I don't know if you've ever had a lean cuisine. I finished one and I could eat another one of those. And the same with most of those TV dinners. Instead of getting something that is wholesome, that's going to leave you feeling full and nourished, instead you're getting something that's loaded with extra things added to it, different chemicals, colors, preservatives, all kinds of things, sodium, huge issue. And instead you can get something that is good for you and will leave you feeling full longer, right? You get your protein, your complex carbohydrate, your micronutrients in your homemade dinner, and you're gonna get way more out of buying a package of chicken breast, broccoli, and brown rice than you would one meal for that lean cuisine. So really the best thing to do is purchasing those whole foods rather than trying to get those healthy, prepackaged, ready-to-eat foods. Okay. Okay, so now that we have established that buying whole foods is really the way to go to save money, let's talk about some strategies for how to save money on those, okay? So I know when you're going through the grocery store, you go and you see the big platter of the pre-cut fruit or the pre-cut vegetables, and it's beautiful and it's convenient. They are charging you so much for the convenience of that. There's also been some concerns at different chains about the cleanliness of those pre-cut fruits and vegetables in terms of, exactly. Yes, some of them you don't really know about the handling, about the origins, the quality of those pre-cut foods. So sometimes I tell people that can be the reward for something, is go and treat yourself to something pre-cut. But by and large, you are so much better off just buying the food in its whole form, whether it's a whole block of cheese or a bag of whole carrots or a bunch of different veggies, and just cutting them up on your own. My recommendation is build that into your grocery shopping time. You know, as soon as you get home, as you're unpacking those veggies, start cutting them up, throw them in some Tupperware, and then you're good to go for the rest of the week. You don't have to worry about that prep time anymore. It's done, okay? Shopping in season is another great way to save some money on purchasing whole foods, right? So one of the major factors in the cost of our food is how far that food has to travel to get to you, right? It's also a matter of quality. So a lot of the foods that you purchase in the grocery store, they're picked before they are ripe, so they have not developed all of their nutrient value. And then the process of ripening them typically involves a gas, particularly with tomatoes, and then transporting them hundreds and thousands of miles actually erodes some of that nutrient value. So the food that you're getting is actually less nutritious if you're shopping out of season, because it's got to come a lot further, and it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more. Exactly. Exactly. So shopping in season as much as you possibly can is actually going to save you quite a bit of money. Related to that, use your freezer. You know, if you can get something in season that's really cheap, particularly, you know, in the fall and the winter, squash, sweet potatoes, all those root vegetables, they're so cheap and they freeze really well. You can roast a few butternut squashes, chop them up, throw them in a Ziploc bag, and you can have butternut squash in the middle of July, and it's great. So definitely don't be afraid to use your freezer. A lot of fruits freeze really well in addition to vegetables. So try it out. You know, you can always use Google to see what things freeze better than others if you don't want to experiment and end up with some gross food. And then discount racks. They're better at some stores than others. Obviously, you want to really be cognizant of the quality of the food, you know, examine it. But I personally like a lot of the discount racks because you're getting food that's actually ripe, as opposed to getting a rock hard avocado and letting it sit on your windowsill for 2 weeks before you can eat it. And you'll save. What?
I've had good luck.
Yeah, discount racks are great. Yeah, if you got the time, dig through it. You'll find some really good bargains. You know, people shop based on how pretty things are. Pretty fruits aren't necessarily like the nutritious fruits or the good for you fruits. So it's got a little bruising on it, so what? Just don't eat that part. Yeah, you'll save a lot of money shopping the discount rack. Any questions so far?
No, but I will say that I do that deliberately because I use a lot of the fruits and vegetables to freeze to put in my smoothies.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So it actually is favorable. They're ready to be put away.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a really good point, especially if you're concerned about texture changes in your food. Throw it in a smoothie, why not? Or soups, stews, those kinds of things. Texture doesn't really matter so much if it's something that turns out it didn't really freeze that well. Likewise, being able to buy things in bulk kind of goes along with the discounts. I'm not necessarily talking about going to wholesale clubs, but if you can buy like a big bag of dried beans or go to your health food store and buy spices in bulk, those are so much cheaper than buying the little tiny jar of spices that'll last you maybe a month, and you spent like $7 on it. Things like nuts and grains, they're also a really good option for purchasing in bulk, especially if your grocery store already has a bulk section. I know some do, some don't. Sometimes it's worth making the extra trip to the local health food store to get those items in bulk. In terms of nutritional value, I do want to note that frozen fruits and veggies, dried beans, you're not really losing much in terms of nutrition content buying those. They're not bad for you. They're not necessarily worse for you than getting a fresh fruit or vegetable or getting fresh beans. In fact, I'd much rather you have dried beans than something that came in a can, because you do lose a lot of nutritional content in something that is canned because they tend to be cooked way too much. And then you also have the concerns about the BPA lining the cans and all kinds of other factors there. So don't feel like you're compromising on quality or nutrition if you are buying something dried or frozen. Okay. All right, so we went over what to buy and what to avoid. Wholesale clubs. People love their wholesale clubs. I mean, I love going to Costco or BJ's, and sometimes it seems like you're getting a really awesome deal. By and large, you are not getting really good deals at these stores, and I'll tell you why. Particularly if there's only one or two of you in your household and you're only going occasionally for a few things, the cost of the membership probably isn't worth it. If you can split that membership with somebody else, do that. That'll save you a lot of money. That's actually what I do with a friend of mine. We split the cost of it, and it works out really well because I only go for a couple things here and there, and it's every several months. So it's really not worth that. There are also a lot of foods that they sell that are not actually good deals. So you really do want to kind of keep an eye and do that comparison shopping. If you're at, whatever local grocery store you go to, take a look at what they're selling per unit versus what, the big wholesale clubs are selling per unit. A couple things that are worth purchasing at those wholesale clubs, they do tend to be good deals. Oils, like olive oil and coconut oil. Organic greens are actually a really good deal. Again, if you will eat them. If they're going to turn, obviously not a good deal. Nuts tend to be a very good deal at wholesale clubs as well. They tend to not be overpriced, and coffee as well if you're a coffee drinker. I would say those are the things you really want to stick to. Beyond that, you're probably not really getting the most bang for your buck, especially if you're paying for the membership. Okay, any questions so far? Comments? Thoughts? No? Okay, awesome. All right, so the next thing that you can do to really help you save money is plan your meals. Plan them ahead, make your grocery lists, stick to them. The old adage about how much more you spend when you go grocery shopping if you go grocery shopping without a list or hungry, it's so true. You do spend so much more if you don't have a plan. So plan it out and really think about what works for you personally. What level of detail do you need in that meal plan? Do you need all of your snacks accounted for that week, or can you wing it? Do you need all your side dishes accounted for in that week, or can you wing it? Truthfully, can you wing it? Try to reuse the same ingredients in different ways when you are doing those meal plans. It's a lot easier to buy a big bag of sweet potatoes or a big bag of quinoa than it is to buy a little bit of a lot of different things. It'll definitely save you money in the long run. Incidentally, grains like rice and quinoa, also good deals at wholesale clubs. So something to consider. And then leftovers, good old leftovers. I feel like so many people give leftovers such a bum rap. But leftovers are great. You can repurpose them in different ways. Some things taste way better the next day. So definitely some things to consider when you're doing your meal plans. It's not just a matter of laying out what you're going to eat. It's thinking strategically about those things as well. And it takes practice. Don't, get discouraged or frustrated. Just figure out what works for you and go from there. So just to kind of further illustrate these points, this is a sample meal plan that I've done for a health coaching client. And you can see, so you have brown rice used in multiple dishes. You've got the rice for the Moroccan lentils, the rice and the coconut cod and spinach. Sweet potatoes used a number of different ways. You got roasted sweet potato fries, sweet potato toast, sweet potatoes in the egg muffins, quinoa used multiple times. So everything that you see grayed out there is leftovers. So this is a really effective meal plan for helping you save some money because you're able to eat the same thing a few times, but it's not so much that you're going to get bored with those foods, right? That's really where a lot of people get stuck with their meal planning, I think, is that they're just like, oh, I'm just so sick of eating the same thing over and over again. You don't have to be trapped into that. You can use things differently. You can get creative. A lot of different ways to do things. I mean, if you wanted to go crazy with this particular meal plan, you know, you could take the leftover chicken that you have and turn it into chicken fajitas the next night. You know, you don't have to use it the same exact way. So a few things to think about when you are doing your meal planning, okay? Just a couple other miscellaneous points, or I guess fun little tips for saving money before I stop talking and answer any questions that you have. Another good way to save money is practicing meatless Mondays. It's something I started doing in my household, and I've definitely noticed meat's expensive. It just is expensive. And there's a lot to be said for high quality plant-based protein sources. So that's definitely a great way to save a little bit of money. It's good for your health. It's good for the environment as well. So give Meatless Mondays a try. Tofu isn't evil. It's actually pretty good. So is tempeh. You know, lentils, beans, those kinds of things. Give those a try. Another trick that I use to save money is making my own vegetable and chicken stocks. They charge you an arm and a leg for a little thing of stock that either you're going to use all of in one fell swoop or it's going to sit in your fridge and go bad, right? So what I do is, as I'm cooking during the week, any vegetable scraps that I have, like onion peels, garlic skins, broccoli stems, carrot tops, all those things, throw them in a Ziploc bag and throw them in the freezer. When the bag gets full, I dump all of it into my slow cooker, cover it with water, and just let it cook for 10 hours. Boom, you've got a veggie stock. It's great. So you're not wasting as much food, and you're getting, you know, it's a massive amount of stock. It freezes really well. So you can pour it into a container, throw it in the freezer, and you'll have it for as long as you want. I like to put it into ice cube trays so that I can portion out how much I want a little bit more easily rather than thawing a big container and then refreezing a big container. So something to consider as well.
And what about the,
Yeah.
you said the chicken stock, how about bone broth? Is the powder bone broth good to use as a broth? If you're short on time and you don't have time to do it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you're short on time, whatever works for you. You know, I always say, you know, I would need to look at the label itself before I could say like this is definitely good or definitely bad. But if it's going to save you time in a pinch, then do it. You know, absolutely, whatever works. And then, as we said, making shopping lists and sticking to them. That's really the key. It's so easy to kind of wander off in the grocery store and then be like, oh, I think I need this.
Trader Joe's.
Yes, especially Trader Joe's, where it's like, what's the new product this week? So definitely stick to that list.
Although they do have good ideas when you try some of the stuff.
Yeah. Any questions?